Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with Emmett Muckles. 'Tis I. Today, we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. You know me, I like to talk about things that affect us as human beings, which is one of the major ones that affects us physically, spiritually, and psychologically is sex. Now, Dr. Cali Estes, Ph.D., is an author and highly sought after addiction therapist and life corporate coach who specializes in harm reduction and utilizes holistic approaches to treat addiction, as well as mental conditions holding her clients back from reaching their full potential. She works with individuals, drug and alcohol treatment teams, and addiction professionals looking to advance their knowledge base. What's up, Doc?
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, I put the call out and you answered it pretty quickly. So thank you so much for being available on the Billionaire Lifestyle. You know, you work with quite a few addictions, but one of the addictions that we don't really discuss in our society today is sex addiction.
That's true.
How did you venture into that? You know, because most people are really focused on the opioid epidemic, the crack epidemic, and all these other chemical-based addictions. And this was more of a spiritual, physical, psychological addiction. So what drove you to that?
So I started off with drug and alcohol, and then my niche market for clients is the narcissistic, self-absorbed male. And generally in Miami, that comes with cocaine, alcohol, strippers, girlfriends, wives, baby mamas, and bam, I was in sex addiction.
It sounds like the 80s.
And you know what? It is down here. It really is. So I kind of fell into it and I thought, I got to learn this because this is my target market and this is what's going on.
So did you see, like, you were having people coming in because of drugs and some other things, and you kept seeing this component like cropping up in the soup as well?
Correct. Yeah. And they were coming to me, or they are coming to me, because they're afraid of losing something. So I've got NFL players, I've got CEOs, celebrities, you name it. And they're right at the time where they're about to lose something, a contract, a house, a job, something. So they have to see me, not they want to see me. And then they come in and they kind of like my personality and they're like, okay, well, this isn't too bad. And then when they lay everything out, I'm like, wow. You know, it's not just one area of your life. It's like you're doing all these shenanigans and then going, why is life so messed up?
Are most of your clients male, or is there a diversity between male and female?
Most of them are male because that's generally the population I do really well with. And that is because I'm very direct. A lot of women like the soft, fuzzy, warm. I'm very, you know, you're doing this and you're expecting this result. You're going to do this, you're going to get that. And it's very, very linear for me. So a lot of men go, you know, I get that. That makes sense. But women say, oh, I want to be warm and fuzzy and I want to talk about it. And I'm action based. So if you're coming to me for change, you're going to change. We're going to see behavioral change.
So with that, you know, there's a certain male archetype that in my mind could fall prey to this addiction, which is the out front, so-called alpha male. And that can be in any walk in life. And I'm not talking about just sports stars. I'm just talking about the guy who's got it going on, who's confident in who he is. He may not be making great money, but he's got his stuff in place. And it seems like, you know, more opportunities come to men of this caliber. But why do people get addicted to sex? I'm going to ask you your opinion.
So you have two different things. First, you have sex addicts. So they're the people that they're addicted to hunting it down, pursuing it, completing the act, and then moving on. That's the guy or the girl that gives you the fake number and says, call me tomorrow, or slips out the back door after you have sex.
Right.
So that's that type. Then you have the love addict, which is a little different. This is the person who romanticizes the beginning. If you remember when you first met your wife, it was fun, it was entertaining, it was amazing, you had stars in your eyes. And then if you're married for a long period of time, that kind of wears off a little bit. The love addict wants that feeling that when they met over and over and over again. So this is the person who keeps searching. They date. They never get super close. They dump the person. Then they go right back to dating. They might have a week off in between last boyfriend and new boyfriend. So you have two different kinds. You have the sex addict and the love addict.
So they're chasing the phenylethylamine, the love drug, that initial hit.
Exactly. Just like a Coke addict. I want that initial feeling. And they never recreate it. It's like, oh, I just wanted to get better. And they're in the same relationship. And then they go, this isn't working. And then they go to the next one.
You know, I was, recently I've come to this conclusion that for like the first 30, 40 years of my life, I was a drug addict. And my drug of choice was testosterone. Mm-hmm. And that drug drove me to some decisions that were not in my best interest. And the decisions came because I was driven by lust. I would see somebody who had the physical archetype that I wanted to, and it kicked in. Boom! Going after that person. Mm-hmm. But they may not have all the attributes for a relationship. Do you think that's part of it too, is just filling that void of a lust that they have?
So I'm glad you said that. So what's happening in your brain? It's a process addiction. So it's different. Sex addiction is different from a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction or a food addiction. And sex addiction, gambling, and internet addiction all are the same thing in the brain. The brain has serotonin, dopamine, and it wants to feel good, the happy chemical. So it goes, bam, there's a hot-looking girl or a hot-looking guy, and your brain fires all these amazing chemicals, and it goes, ooh, I'm happy. That's where it starts. And then once that happens, your brain goes, I want more of that. I like that feeling. And it's a natural high.
Yeah. So
it's not like we're giving you an external stimulus or, a drug or an alcohol. So that's why it's so difficult to stop the bad behavior, because it's your brain's own natural chemistry.
So I heard this thing that during the act of sex, the male and the female have similar reactions, but they release different chemicals, where women might release oxytocin and men, what was the one you said?
Serotonin, dopamine?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And men release that. So men have a feel good, like, whoa, that was great. While the other one is a bonding drug. Do you think that's part of the difference, why there may be difference in numbers for sex addiction, male versus female?
I do. And I also think if you look at our society, the way we are structured society, men are supposed to be macho, right? When you're growing up, it's how many girls did you sleep with? How many notches on your belt? 100, 200. And girls, it's like, oh, you slept with 5 guys? Oh, you're whoring around, right? So you have this societal pressure on women to be pure and men to get as many in as you possibly can. So when you put that in there with the oxytocin and the serotonin, dopamine, what you see then is that they gravitate towards that feeling and then say, okay, I'm meeting my societal demand. I have that serotonin, dopamine. I feel good. Check mark. Move on to the next one. Yep. They're doing what they're taught.
So with that biological, psychological thing in place, that's a hard thing to combat if you're not really understanding what's going on. So what is the solution for people who are addicted to, who are sex addicts?
Well, the first thing is you have to want to change your behavior. So if you have somebody who says, I don't want to change my behavior, there's nothing I can do to help them. My question becomes, what do you want to change? And what consequences are you tired of? Are you tired of no commitment? Are you tired of being the guy who's, by himself, you're 45 years old and not married because you can't keep a long-term relationship? Or are you the guy that's got 2 or 3 girls going on the side and you're tired? That's a lot of work. So I want to know what you want to change so we can take a look at that and change it so that you get better. But if you come to me and say, I like the way I am, I can't necessarily help you.
Wow. That's some things to think about. Because this is a great conversation, because I am speaking to a woman And I'm thinking or reflecting as a man. So a lot of the things that you are saying, I can identify with. I've been in every one of those arenas where I was like, oh yeah, if I was single, it's going down. And then after a while, you're like, this is just,
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And it's just like, So how would you know if someone you love was a sex addict?
Okay, so there's a few signs. First of all, they have multiple partners. Number one. So they're on their phone, they're hiding in the bathroom, they're calling, they're disappearing, they spend the night somewhere else. So you know there's something going on there. The second thing is they're always chasing another person, or they're always going to a meeting and they're always trying to get the next thing, the next person, the next feel-good moment, whatever it is. And then on top of it, it's not just the behavior. The lack of spirituality will come along with that. So there may be somebody who used to go to church who suddenly doesn't go, or doesn't consider themselves spiritual, or doesn't like traditional marriage. Everything that would be spiritual, they reject because they somehow inherently know that juggling all this stuff has to be morally wrong. Yeah. But they don't want to face that because once they do, they're like, oh, maybe there's something wrong with me. So those are some of the things you're looking for.
Let me diverge a little bit. So do you have clients that are non-U.S. native as well?
Oh, yeah.
And is there a difference in the approach or a difference in the being of those who are, let's say, European versus U.S.?
Yes. So Italian men, we'll start there because I'm Italian. I'm just going to start with my people. The Italian culture for men is they treat women like treasures. So they're very attentive and they buy them gifts and they shower them with love. But they also have multiple partners and the women know that. And it's the same thing with Latin men. There's the woman you marry who has your kids and then there's your girlfriend. So in that culture, it's accepted. So it's not necessarily a sex addiction because it's the way they're raised and it's the way things happen. It just has to be maintained that it's not out of control. And by out of control, I mean, if it's the only thing they're thinking about is sex, there's a problem. If they're sneaking away from work to get it or disappearing, it's becoming an issue with the, family, then we have to look at it.
And the difference is with the United States, we have this Puritan-based culture where, guilt is part of the fray, especially if you're Catholic. You got to have that Catholic guilt. You're like, wait a minute, this feels so great, but I feel so horrible. Do you see people having psychological issues or trying to come to terms with who they are because of this?
But on both sides, yeah. So the women that are, I wouldn't say love addicts, so they're always chasing the next, the next boyfriend.
I've seen those.
They have a hard time realizing they internalize it and say something's wrong with me, as opposed to saying, well, maybe I picked the same type of guy. He just looks different. Instead of addressing that, they internalize it and say, I'm bad. No one can love me. I'm ugly. I'm fat. I'm stupid. So we have to treat that backwards. With the men with sex addiction, what happens is they stop and they say, okay, now, usually they age out right around 45. And they say, okay, now I'm really tired of the game. And I want to step back and I want to find myself a partner and I want to get married. I want to have kids and I want to settle down. And they start to get right around 42 to 45. They start to realize it's a lot of work and it's exhausting.
It is. So I have this thing, particularly in today's culture, and people are going to hate me for this. I had a young friend or a friend of mine's daughter who is absolutely gorgeous. And she was 19. I said, my dear, it's a different age. So I'm going to give you some advice and you can take it if you want to, but I'm going to explain it all to you. I'm like, you have to have your whore phase. And she was like, what?
What?
She was like, what are you talking about? I was like, you have till 24.5 to have your whore phase. She was looking at me like, you got statistics? I'm like, yes. I'm like, go have those relationships till you're 24.5. Do what you have to do. Get it done. You can't become pregnant. You can't have an STD. You can't commit a felony. Go do it. At 24.5, you're going to stop and become polypurebred. And she was like, huh? I was like, you can do it, because I've seen women who actually do it. They do something the night before, the next day they flip the switch. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, what this is going to give you is going to give you a basis for understanding the men of today. It's going to give you understanding the guys that you want to be with, because you understand a little bit of life. I'm like, I'm not saying it is morally the best thing, but it's something for you to think about. Men, I tell the same thing, but their age extends to the age of 30.
It's so funny you say that.
And the reason for that is the maturity rate of males and females, because one of the things that if someone is considered a pedophile in this country, they base it, the age of consent, on the age of men. But we all know that physically women mature faster than men. And so they base it on the age of men, when women historically, and I looked this up in family trees, women were having babies around 13 or 14 about 100 years ago. That was normal. That was completely normal. And somehow this Puritan set got in, and now we have it at the age of 18. I understand. It's the new rule. But the other thing is this. Children do not see their parents nude because it is automatically taboo and related to sex. So everything in this country is related to sex. Do you think how we approach humanness, sexuality, the body in this country has something to do with the influence on these individuals?
Yes, and I'm going to take it one step further.
You go, girl.
All right. Strip clubs.
Woo!
Take a look at the strip club. So men can walk around shirtless, right? You guys can walk around anywhere you want topless.
Yep.
Totally fine.
Yep.
We walk around topless. Now, I know Colorado and New York are letting us do it. We walk around topless. We get arrested. We get cited. Why? Because that's what you pay for at a strip club. You pay to see it at a strip club. So they're making money off of it. That's the first thing. The second thing is lap dances are okay at a strip club, but you can't do that at the family barbecue. Then you have a, whore phase at the family barbecue. So again, it's taboo. It's hidden. Strip clubs are all blacked out, right? You can't even see what's going on in there. You know what's going on. It's half naked women running around. Who cares? But you have to pay to get in the front door. And there's a very specific stigma to it. We also downplay prostitution. It's illegal. You can't sell your own body. Well, what happens is human trafficking goes up, rape goes up, domestic violence goes up, sex addiction goes up, because people want what they can't have.
Yeah.
You want to drop sex addiction? Legalize it. Legalize prostitution. Let women walk around as naked as they want to be, and you will see it all go down.
I agree with you. If I could go 1,000%, I would be right there, because I believe this implicitly. I believe if people were exposed to the opposite sex body, because little girls, they've never seen their dad naked. They don't know that this is a natural thing. So it would take their mind off of it, and they would focus on the real things that they're looking at for a person who has virtues. I want the virtues of my dad, and my dad was this. Or little boys, after breastfeeding is over, they don't come near, their mom nude. So, and if anybody took their clothes off from their child would go, ah!
Yeah.
Because it's so taboo. And then you say the commoditization of the female body contributes to all this as well. So it all comes down to the almighty dollar and control. Mm-hmm. So, which is kind of horrible. So is there let me get this right, a personality type or demographic that is more prone to be a sex addict than just the general population?
So in women, it's an acting out behavior that you see right around 12 to 15. You can almost peg it. They're wearing mini skirts and tank tops, tons of makeup. They're the girl that sleeps with everybody in high school. They're looking for something. They're filling a void. They don't feel okay on the inside, so they use sex to fill the void. So for women. For men, it's a conquest. It's, okay, I did that one, check mark. I did that one, check mark. I did that one, check mark. So when you see a guy that's competitive, that becomes competitive maybe against other guys or himself, and he's in the group of who slept with who, that's generally what happens. Now, of course, 16 to 20, 25, 30, that's normal.
Yeah.
But if it's 35 and you're still doing that, you probably are a sex addict, and we have to have a conversation. Because now you should be talking about marriage and kids and the white picket fence and the dog and the car and going to church on Sunday. And you're talking about who you slept with last night and who you're going to see today at 2:00. So those are the telltale signs.
So I'm gonna go down a uneasy road here. There's a movement which is necessary that I understand now in this country because of historically how women have been treated. It's the Me Too movement. It's the women's empowerment movement. But on the onslaught of that, I see where there are some men, good men, who are being discounted and kind of cast aside, who are afraid to commit because they're afraid to really go on the journey. Because if they really put their self out there, they may have to push the envelope a little bit in some cases. Do you think this is going to affect us in the future related to sex addiction? I don't know, because most people meet at work once you're an adult. Mm-hmm. And so now that's kind of like, no. You got to be on your P's and Q's. And that's where you spend most of the time with people. So do you think you'll see more people engaging in porn addiction with online activities or other means?
Well, I'm not a fan of the Me Too movement. I'm just going to say that. And I know I'm going to get crucified by all your women listeners. I think it started with a good idea and it got out of hand. Now they're crucifying everybody going back 20, 25, 30 years. There's no reason it's just not necessary. Mm-hmm. I think we could have used it to set a standard. We're not doing that. On top of that, we also have a big generational gap. The millennials are very different than the way we were growing up. So they're into pangender, trigender, free love, and I see one guy and two girls constantly. Yeah. And they have these little thing going on and it's totally normal. So I think you're going to see a shift away from sex addiction in that population, in that age group, yeah, and more into like a free love, kind of trying things out, moving along like you did in the 70s. And it's actually going to drop the sex addiction.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because I actually, I have a great deal of women that I can be very candid with and ask these questions that most men are just like, nope, I'm not going to. And I'm that guy. I'm like, I want to know. I need to understand this because I have daughters and I have women in my life that I need to understand. I need to overstand. And I find that there's a generation gap. So somewhere between 35 and 37, there's a split. Mm-hmm. Or 35 and 40, there's a split. There's ones like, look, the ones that are over like 40, like, look, just give me a man who like can change his underwear. And got his teeth. I'm good.
It's true. It's true. It's when you get to a certain age, you're like, look, if they could just put pants on in the morning and brush their teeth, I am good. I am in. I've got two single girlfriends and they're so funny. They're like, and they're going on these dates and they'll hit me up and they'll be like, this one did this at dinner and this one did that at dinner. And I'm thinking to myself, I need to start like an online class for men on what to do on a date and what not to do. Because some of them, it's like, what were they thinking? It's just crazy. The one talked about his ex-wife the entire time and she's going, I know everything about her, including her favorite color. Why? Why do I need to know that? So...
we've diverged a little bit, but we're talking about the things that can lead up to what our initial topic, which is sex addiction. And I remember this, I was single a couple of years ago. I went through a divorce. I'm remarried now. And, I remember a female friend of mine, I was like, I was like, the game has changed. I'm like, these women are coming after me hot. She was like, all right. She's like, I seen your profile. She was like, just off your profile alone. A, you smiled.
Yeah.
I was like, what? She was like, you smiled. You smiled a genuine smile in your profile pictures. She was like, B, that lets us know that you have all your teeth. She was like, B, you look like you're well kept. Like, you can cook your food. Like, you can take care of yourself. You pay your bills and you don't live with your mama. I was like, what? And she was like, and I'm going to tell you the biggest one. You're not a dude who's going to send a dick pic.
Yeah, there you go. That's true.
She was
that's sad. That's sad that we've gotten to that. Like, that's what we're judging people against. But that's where we are. That's true.
That's really, really
I, by
sad.
the way, have never gotten one of those. Because I'm such a type A alpha female.
They're scared.
They're scared to death. If they send that to me, because I will post it and I will make fun of them and I will run with it, put their picture up there. So they know better. They know not to do it with me.
Well, that's awesome. So where can people find you?
I'm at CaliEstes.com or theaddictionscoach.com. And same on the socials, Dr. Cali Estes. And in Twitter, it's at The Addictions Co.
Are you doing any workshops? Are you doing any online webinars? Are you Facebook? What's the Facebook Live? What's the deal?
I do some Facebook Live. I do a lot of online webinars on addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, sex addiction. I just came out. I'll show you this real quick. Husband and I wrote a book called I Married a Junkie, which was about him being a heroin addict.
Oh, I thought you were going to go to the testosterone route.
Yeah, it's actually a really good book. It's pretty. I mean, I drop the F-bomb a lot because I'm from Philadelphia and I'm not censored, but so don't take offense to it. But I have that. So we talk about that and we go on tour and talk about it. And this just dropped this week. And it's the 7 keys to tap into the wealth inside you. And it's all about defeating limiting beliefs and getting out there and doing what you want to do. And whatever vice you have, overcoming the vice to get where you need to be.
So we're going to have to make that our next interview.
Awesome.
About that, but give us about a month or two and we'll cover that topic. And they can find these on your website and Amazon.
They can find on my website and Amazon. I'm on Amazon.
Awesome. All right. I want you to close your eyes for this one.
Oh, gee. Okay.
So you're sitting on your couch. Wait a minute. What's your favorite drink, by the way? Alcoholic.
Pinot Grigio.
Okay. So you got nice glass of wine. Everybody's gone from the house. You're sitting there chilling like, meditating. I can maybe pick up some Shonda Rhimes or whatever I like to watch. And you're chilling, right? Nobody's home and the doorbell rings and you get up from like, God. You walk up to the door. You open the door and there's this beautiful dark-haired young lady who's about 19 years old, and it's the young you. And she looks at you and goes, God, you're hot. And then says, what do I need to know? Just give me one thing that can help me to get there a little easier to where you are now.
Ooh. I don't know if there's an easy answer to that because I've had money, I've been poor, I've been homeless, I lived in a car, I lived on the beach. I would say there is no easy answer. You're going to go through what you're going to go through, but the reason you're doing it, use it as a springboard. So I would use it as a learning moment and say anything that happens to you, file it away because you're going to make money on it later. Because anything that happens is a learning, teachable moment for someone else. That's what I would say.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast, Dr. Estes.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we conclude. You know what it is. We are all billionaires. We were born that way. And you're like, huh? I'm going to explain it to you. So your mama and your daddy met. And your daddy had a little game or your mama had a little game. So they had a little dance where they exchanged some biological information. That biological information was in the form of you. One cell met another. They began to split. 2 to the power of 30, which is 30 days later after that inception, you were over 1 billion cells. You only grew from there. So you're born a billionaire. You're a human being, which is HUE, person under the sun of color. No matter what you think you are a person of color. Otherwise, you'd be opaque. In the image of man, which is where our creator. And the problems come in the being part. So try to master your being. Try to stay in your lane, but take inspiration from the person in the lane next to you. Till next time, love you all. Peace.